Pleasure Dome. Who dares speak of Pleasure Dome? Okay, but here's the image behind it, so at least know what I'm talking about a little bit. Uplift tail over its main line. Pleasure Dome. Good morning, Yosef. Good morning. You ever go to the uplift? You know, you go to the elevator, are you going up? Okay, so you go to an uplift. But what's the uplifting here? In this case, not an elevator. It's the tail of the lion who lifts its tail over its head, over its main line. What's a main line? I mean, unfortunately, there's such a thing. Okay, I've never, Baruch Hashem, I had the misfortune to you know, because, you know, I grew up in a certain world, but it never was like that. I didn't know anyone like that. Okay, mainlining. Okay, people that are just would plug into a machine and just give me a pleasure dome, give me a machine, and yeah, just plug me in, and I'll see you in 1,000 years, because I don't care. I just want pleasure. The pleasure dome. Okay, like the Matrix, if they actually wired it in a way that they didn't really care, they had to introduce the whole idea of this conflict, this inner conflict. It couldn't be just pleasure. They didn't make it that way in that story, because I think that they're making it an allegory for life. You know, life has that tension. And that's what today's a Yum Yum is about. Or tomorrow's, perhaps. I think it's tomorrow's. I went to tomorrow's because today's was not something I could really speak about. So the first question, I went to philosophy, right? I was excited to start my career as a philosopher when I was 20 or 18 years old or whatever. So the first question I was asked in Philosophy 101, literally, was, if there was such a machine that you could just have pleasure, I call it the pleasure dome now. She didn't use that word. If there was such a machine, would you go in it? That was the first question she asked us. This professor, who was way ahead of her time, she mentioned in those days, like, I don't know, 25 years ago or something, she used the word partners, like, and I didn't know what she was talking about. Like, she was, you know, of that persuasion. And she used the word partners, and I had never heard the term before. I didn't know what she was talking about. She was talking business partner, and the whole class made the same mistake. So she had to say, oh, you didn't realize? And she had to explain that that's talking about. Okay, that was a new thing for me. You know, a long time ago, though. So, but this question, I think it really resonates. Imagine if there was a drug that had no side effects except the fact that you would only feel pleasure. Would you do it? How would you function even? There is a pleasure dome. God gives us a pleasure dome. It says that the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, they're sitting itreseim beroshechem, with their roshechem. No, hem. You know Hebrew, don't you? They sit with their crown on their head. In their head, it says, itreseim beroshechem. What does it mean in their head? It should say on their head. Al Rashehem, not beh, inside it. So really it's talking there about pleasure. They experience pleasure from the Torah that they learned in this world. So the idea of a crown is not something that just surrounds. I mean, even the Alter Rebbe in Tanya has to specify, when he talks about Seiviv Kol Almim, he's not talking about something that just surrounds, but it's not within, it is within. It's transcendent and there also. So a crown sits above the head, but that encompasses the whole head. It's like the aura that art history depicts auras, and they were like this balls of light that surrounded someone's head. Okay, I don't know where they got it from, but it happens to resonate with this idea that we represent pleasure by the idea of a crown being inside the head. They bask in the presence of the Shekhinah, the pleasure that they had in learning Torah, that they actually feel all the physical, or not physical, obviously. Good morning, Rabbi Markel. Not physical when you're in Gan Eden, and that's Gan Eden. There's going to be a Gan Eden in this world too. Ultimately, that's where it's meant to be. I don't think in Gan Eden there were predators. carnivores. Maybe they would all get along, right? And that's what's going to revert back to that. It's the position of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that the Nezikin are going to exist, the animals, the wild animals, the beasts, but they're not going to harm. They're going to be declawed. Perhaps not denuded, because I don't think that's like the idea of this toxic masculinity. If you think that they have to be denuded just because they don't have claws, they're actually going to be, the Nachash is going to be a Shamash Gadol. The serpent is going to be a great servant, right? Rav Kayach B'Tfuah Shar. There's lots. Rav Tfuah B'Kayach Shar. I can't remember the exact line, but there's a lot of harvests in the shoulders of the ox. There's a lot of produce. You could harness something, okay, if that word's offensive to some people, because someone mentioned that to me once. I don't know what's offensive about that word. People are so weird. But Matt Steven, good morning. Awesome to have you here. Okay, I want to read you my haiku since you're making fun of haiku. Okay, but there's rules to haiku. Okay, you can read it. I already posted it. We're done with that. Let's go into the Hayom Yom. Okay, so Matt Steven doesn't have to waste his time in my shtuyot. You can learn some Torah with me. All right? It's awesome because it talks about something that's really weird. In the commentary I have on it. Okay, because it's Chaf Daled Tammuz is Hayom Yom. It's Shabbos. Today's Chaf Gimel, I believe. Yes. So it mentions there Tzayas Klavim. We're gonna look into what that means. Okay, that's just gonna be a hint. Because I haven't researched it yet. I have sources that I haven't gone through yet. But I had glanced through them. It's interesting. Tzayas Klavim. What does that have to do with anything? And I don't even want to translate it. Dog waste. Dog excrement. Talks about it in Torah like a zillion places. Okay. I don't think about these things. I don't talk about it, but this is in Torah. It's relevant to somebody. And me. I just don't know it yet. I'm going to see how it's relevant if we get a chance to delve into such things. It's talking, because the Rebbe says as a b'derech tzachais, I mean, he says al derech tzachais the haremez, to say a comical allusion, Allusion, who but says klavim. It's talking about gathering dog feces because it was used to tan hides. I don't know how it worked. Maybe one of the sources, if we get to them, will mention it. I don't know what they I don't even like thinking about it. It's made people stink. The halachas are whether you could say, we'll see, okay? Because it's such an unsavory thing. The Torah has laws that deal with it. If people had to have they were tanners, they would stink. So the Rebbe says that is an allusion for the idea of working on yourself. Wallowing in the mire, but getting out of the mire. I mean, Chassidim would speak about the pig who would put itself up to its nose in its own muck. It would want to go deeper. Rabbi Aranov, Yisrael Shleim, Menachem Mendel, Hakayan ben Chava. He would say this story about or maybe it was Rabbi Wagner also, that the pig would be up to its nose in muck. It would be like trying to get it immersed in this world, and it would only wish that if it didn't have to have complete Mesiras Nefesh, it would put its nose under too, so it wouldn't have to. It wouldn't have to breathe. I mean, I've spoken before about this idea of diving, and God is your aqua lung, your iron lung. That you don't need to go up for air rather. I spoke about that once. It's an interesting idea, but the pig immerses itself in the pleasure dome and wishes that it could have self-sacrifice for it, but it knows the problem. The pig knows what's going to happen if it does that. It will die. It won't be able to experience another day in the muck. It doesn't really care. All it wants is to be plugged into the pleasure dome. This matrix that only gives you pleasure, that has no challenge whatsoever. That even Hollywood doesn't depict, because there's nothing to talk about. constant pleasure is not considered pleasure. Tainug hanimshechas or something like that, I think they call it. An ongoing pleasure is not considered pleasure. It has to be yelchu melchayel lechoyel. Tzaddikim are going to go from strength to strength. In pleasure in God, a holy pleasure. There is this flip side, and it's infinitely greater, obviously. That's my point. My point is, the hedonist just has to understand that. There's stories in the Torah about people like that. Maybe Acher. No, or Eliezer ben Dordaya, rather. Look at that story. I've spoken about that many times. It's like my favorite story in the Torah. Yeah, I got it, though. So do you mainline your veins into this pleasure dome and not have to have any challenges in life? Today's Hayom Yom addresses that. Okay, let's read the Hayom Yom. It's short, and then I have commentary on it. Okay? It's the Pisgamei Shel HaTzemach Tzedek that it's founded on the Divrei HaHevel. What? No, Chas v'Shalom. No. It's founded on the verse Techabed ha'aved al anashim v'al yishay b'divrei hevel. Make the work piled up upon man, and don't save him with vanity. Okay? If it's pleasure for pleasure's sake, that is vanity. That's the pig. Okay? That his only dream is that he can continue his pleasure. Okay, I've spoken about hedonic resets and hedonic, what's it called? This whole principle of you cannot maintain. It's in secular science also, but people don't like secular talk anyways. It makes them nervous. And I've spoken about it before anyways. I got away with it, right? So first, the Hayom Yom. It says, it's among the aphorisms of the Tzemach Tzedek. It says, a pnimi is someone who's genuine. As betna bracha eif aveda is das al yishub divrei hevel. That when asking for a blessing for his service of God, for his ability to devote his life for God, he does not ask that he should be saved. Is thus al yishay b'divrei hevel, with matters of vanity. And it's darf zayin, and there must be techabed haveda al hanashim, that the work should be burdened upon man. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek says a bracha should be. Remember I spoke about swimming against stream, was that yesterday? Or the day before, rather. Swimming against the stream. The Tzemach Tzedek here, this would have fit in perfectly with that. And that's what you should ask for. Let's do it in the Hebrew. Pnimihu, what does it mean, a genuine person? Levakesh bracha al aveda. When it comes to asking for a blessing for serving God, Zeu al yishav divrei hevel. This is, as the verse says, or I think it's a verse, do not be saved with words of vanity. There must be burden the service upon the people. Like the advice in Tanakh, it says to one of the early kings that he should increase, I think it was the son of Shlomo, that he should increase the taxes on the people and show them their yoke. That they have forced to accept the yoke of your kingship. Okay, so now I got these awesome words on this, okay? That I'm going to focus on the last words of it, and I don't know what they mean yet. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what the joke is about someone who has to tan leather. I don't understand the joke. I want you to help me with it, maybe, if I get that far. What time is it? 8:43. This is like Gan Eden. To be with you at 8:43, I'm like almost like a normal person now. That would be really neat. I'm ready. Maybe just before I dive into this, just to let me calm down for a minute. Just tell you about what I'm writing about now. Actually, might make me very morose and bitter. It's a 3 weeks thing. It's like a mourning thing. Mourning the destruction of the Holy Temple. It's like I have had ideas throughout the year, and that have this bitter aspect of mournfulness. You know, because I try and be sensitive to people that suffer. And I thought I'd save them for the 3 weeks. I saved Parshas Balak for a long time, that idea I wrote about. Saved the idea, but because I figured I might as well. So I'll talk about something else now. now and save it for the right time. So if we have to be mournful, I found the sources about the martyrdom of Rabbi Shmuel. It's very sad. He was a Gilgul of Yosef HaTzadik. A princess or a matronissa saw that he had the beauty of Yosef HaTzadik in his prime. The translation I read said. In his prime. Yosef HaTzadik in his prime. That was the beauty of Rabbi Shmuel. And he was being tortured. The princess asked. She was daughter of the tyrant, it says. That's how she's identified, at least from what I read. McInnes. Doing some research on this. It's fascinating. She says, spare his life. He's beautiful. And his father, this tyrant, this torturous maniac, who tried to eradicate purity like these weirdos who want to take away the innocence from children. Rahman al-Islam. Rahman al-Islam. So he didn't acquiesce to her request to save his life. What did she want? She was a superficial, not a Jewish woman. Very superficial and representing what, this pleasure dome. He's beautiful. Okay, save his face. So he agreed. They cut off his face alive. When they came to the point of his tefillin, right here, rather, right? That's the soft part of the skull on a baby's head, which makes him very vulnerable. Right? The innocence of infanthood, the vulnerability of that place. But what's the vulnerability? Listen, this is what I've been thinking about for a long time. I've spoken about it a few times, but now I'm writing about it, so it's really on my mind. Why is it here, right in that spot? Besides the idea that it's like a channeling, a pipeline right into the core of your being. But the place of vulnerability, why? But first, what did he do? Okay? What did he do? Check this out. He let out a scream that caused the entire world to quake, and the earth crumbled into little pieces. Why did he didn't let out a peep before that? Here he's shaking the entire earth. Why? Why then? Why not before, when he got to his cheek, his beard? Okay, why not his beard? That's a mitzvah to have a beard. If there's pictures that will make me, it's hard to mention, but they're cutting off the beard of Jews in these pictures from the Holocaust. Okay? That's not when he cried out. That's not when he cried out. What is the mitzvah that we learn that God keeps that we keep God's mitzvahs, that we do things because God does it? It's from the tefillin. At least that's the mimer brings down a medrash. The mimer, the teaching that everybody learns at the bar mitzvah in Chabad. It speaks what's written on the tefillin of God. It says, Mikam kol Yisrael go yachad ba'aretz. Who is like unto Yisrael, the Jewish people, one nation on earth, a unique nation on earth. We say also one. We praise God for being one. Shema Yisrael, it says in our tefillin, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Rabbi Akiva died in the word Echad, God's oneness. He died. He would look forward to that moment his whole life. Yet that moment is when Rabbi Shmuel screamed. Why? Why then? Why not when his beard? The tefillin, the place of the tefillin, what does that represent? That represents my identification with Hadayidid, with God, the beloved, the other, sensitivity to another. Here it's God, by extension, all the Jewish people, it's one within God. That's what it says in 32nd chapter of Tanya, look it up. So Rabbi Shmuel only cries out then because that represents God in the world. It is God's pain now, and that caused him to cry out in a cry that shook the earth. Okay? Literally. Okay, I don't know what it means literally. It shook the earth. It crumbled to pieces, the whole earth. Because God creates the earth for the Jewish people. And when he sees the pain, okay, he didn't see the pain before that. He kept in the pain. What caused him to cry out? When God's glory in the earth, that's at stake. That is intolerable. Where is that represented? In the wedding band on our tefillin, right? We put it around our finger. It's a wedding band to God. Where do we wear that? On our head. The crown of the lion is its tail. It lifts up the tail above itself. That's the yin-yang image there. The perfect extremes, one merged into the other at its extreme, specifically at its extreme. That's when God puts us above him. Imi, he calls us his mother. Or it could be the opposite. Maybe it's BT, and putting his BT just being the tail, the lowest aspect. When we be the tail of the lion as opposed to the head of this fox, that's when we're uplifted. So the true pleasure, because I think what happens when Avram Avinu is thrown into the Kivshana Eish, the fiery furnace, what happens to him at that moment? He's in Gan Eden. What happens to Rabbi Shmuel? What's the innermost part of his cry? Is not his suffering. It's the consolation for his suffering that's going to be in the future to come, and the pleasure that comes with it. Because Avram Avinu, when he stepped into the heat, maybe he burnt his finger, maybe he burnt his skin, maybe it was a piercing call that rent him. But if so, it was a split second, and bam, he was in Gan Eden. I think Rabbi Shmuel experienced that too, and that was his cry that shook the earth. The consolation that he knew was part of that. I could probably prove it from the context of this whole thing. That says Rabbi Akiva, the whole story there speaks about Rabbi Akiva, has how he was told, I think by Rabbi Shmuel, that when he died, he merited the world to come, preempting, premonition of when he's going to cry out when he dies. He cries out and shakes the earth. The very foundations, the earth represents the raw power, the Nefesh Bahamas, that power, the consolation that's built into the self-sacrifice, that Kadeshim, he becomes a Kadesh and becomes precious and holy to God with all the other suffering in the world, and in a position to uplift them because he can take them with his Kavana, with Rabbi Akiva's Kavana at that moment of saying Echad. But he looked forward to his entire life. He only had one chance to do it. He knew it had to be at the end of his life. I think he was 100 or 120. I think I read just recently he was 100 when that happened. Shleimus. What does it say about at 100? So if you died and left the world. Rabbi Akiva leaving the world, but instantly into the Olam Haba. Nothing, no purification needed. He was purified with all types of purity. It says about, I think about Rabbi Akiva himself, because they just, okay, I can't talk about what they did to him. You'll read, that's what we say for Tisha B'Av. This was enough, right? So maybe, if there's anyone left, we'll start the Hiyamim with that weird introduction. So I think within the Pneumius of the self-sacrifice, of the torture of the martyrs that we're going to be learning about at length, I think there's pleasure. I think God saves them at that moment and gives them Gan Eden right then for a tzaddik. At least other people might, chas v'shalom, require some of that. I don't know. That's unfortunate to think. But Amech Kulam Tzadikim, there's an awakening now, okay? Don't be immersed in the Tzais Klavim. Use that as a way to lift yourself up from the muck of this world, like Rabbi Akiva did. Okay, we were speaking about the earth, going into the earth yesterday. So it's associated with this, okay? But that was maybe a bit of a reference that was a bit far off. So look it up yesterday. Okay. So Chassidus, as is known, requires from a chassid to be genuine, meaning the opposite of a chitzain, a superficial person, or an outward person who only shows himself outwards and doesn't really mean what he expresses outwardly. Chitzain enanu shakran, someone who's external is not a liar, or adam marima, or not a haughty person, someone who makes himself a magnanimous person. Is that a word? Chitzain hi adam la yisaydi. It just means that he's lacking foundation. Chitzain, if you just have the structure on top and don't have the foundation, that means external. Okay? Adam shalimuchan likanas b'dvarim b'tzinai, someone who does not want to throw himself into things. It's not a true foundation. have to dive into something. The education of Chabad is to be genuine. Everyone must know this. To just learn things because it's a program in school, challenge the program, discuss the sources, find out what the Rebbe said about other instances too. I'm telling you, there's things lacking. We can't, it's not just about Kabbalah Zell. I don't think that's what the Rebbe meant by Kabbalah Zell. I know the Rebbe spoke about that probably more than any other thing, receiving the yoke of heaven. Okay? I realize that. I don't think it's what the Rebbe meant just to say, okay, I'm going to take another step, especially when people are stumbling. I really don't think that. I think anyone who says that is a fool. Sorry to tell you. Look at the entire body of the Rebbe's teachings. Put it in context. And that, I think, is what you'll find, especially now, after so much time of seeing things crumbling within our midst. People just... Like, I was at a Farbrengen recently, I mentioned this before. Someone there said, when someone said the word Farbrengen, he said, oh, do you mean a real Farbrengen? Or fake Farbrengen? Okay? This was like, I don't know, 16, 18-year-old boy. There's a realization there's something genuine and something that's just flag, banner waving, whatever you want to do, whatever image resonates with you, but not really meaning something. A genuine experience, that's what people need today. That's what the 14-year-old boy, that's the person I'm speaking to. In you, too. And in me. Have integrity in every area. Okay, talk about it. I lecture you all the time, right? So, it requires a Yesaidius shel emes, foundations of truth. That's what it means to be genuine, to be a pnimi. Foundations of truth, so don't lie to yourself. Here, it's just about whether there's a foundation. A person, if doesn't have a foundation, that means he defines it here as someone who doesn't throw themselves into something. That's why I have a problem with people that lecture, and they're not passionate about it, because it's telling the other people, unless they're very controlled and disciplined, which is not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. But someone who's just not into it, it's telling the person, at the same time where they're giving information, he's telling them at the same time, I don't really believe these are divrei Elokim chaim. These are not words of the living God, or fire. This is not fire. These are not the verbatim words of God. That's what he's saying in terms of his delivery. This is his presentation, his outward expression of emotion related to that thing. Yes, you could be disciplined and not show it, and you could be a pnimi and keep things in and focused. Yes. I don't know how to do that. That's not what you're going to find in me. Other people do that, right? So see favor in other people, and that's what they're expressing. Okay, then it goes on. I'm going to get to this size clothing thing. Not too much longer, folks. So hang in there. I appreciate it. Okay? Really, I do. Good morning. Okay, weiter gegangen. What's the foundation of truth? This is what the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, teaches us. Shehudi shemevakesh me'atzadik bracha shaveda Hashem shalei tiyeh kedeboy. This is a Jew who asks for a blessing from a righteous person, that his service, his ability to face his challenges, that should be as required of him. He's using his he's sincere about his efforts. It's not something that he doesn't throw himself into. He does throw it in. That's why I think that you gotta just throw your life into bring Mashiach. Every person in his own level, his comfort zone, yes. But me'adecha, you gotta go beyond your comfort zone a little bit at least. I mean, everyone's got to know how much they can go beyond. Yes. Me'adecha, not someone else's me'ed, not someone else's beyond. You're beyond you. Take a step beyond. Yiskadem b'avedus Hashem. What is priority in his service to Hashem? No. Beshe yiskadem b'avedus Hashem. He should approach. He should face the task of serving God. Mechapes l'maaseh kitzur derech. One who looks, in actuality, for the short path, the easy way out. And he's not prepared for a genuine and fundamental service of God that has a strong foundation. Rather, in contrast to this, the pnimia, the person with integrity and is a genuine, sincere person who knows that the blessing for serving God, that is, do not, expressed in the words, do not seek sanctuary in vain words. Don't be plugged into the pleasure dome. Okay? Don't ask. You will be plugged into the pleasure dome. I promise you. God's going to console every person to such an extent that you would say, enough already, I want to give something back. You're going to ask to get out of the pleasure dome. God will give you the pleasure dome, mainlining into pure ecstasy. Okay? How do I know? Hang around me. Be my friend. Daven with me. I invite you to come daven with me. Okay? Invite me to come daven with you. I want to see your davening. You know, even if it's just spiritually. I think everyone, especially the people that they know, they're taking them with them and they're davening, of course. It's obvious. You're not just you. You're you and all the people that resonate with you because you stand for something. Everybody who's listening to me now stands for something, and they know it. So they take everything of that with them. If you're davening for an issue, like Save the Whales, all the people that believe in Save the Whales are going to have those brachas also, whatever you accomplish. If you're asking for Mashiach, and people that their approach to bring Mashiach resonates with you, yes, you're all together in davening. That is the whole premise for beholding the Shekhinah, which is what davening is. Okay, but now we're talking about general service of God, okay? Because it's not just about a burden. Sorry, it happens every time, right? It's not just about, oh, and I'm zoomed in. I'm really sorry, that's crazy. I don't know how it did that, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's not what you're seeing, is it? Oh. Oh my goodness. Well, now it's gone the other way. Pardon me. Okay. Sorry. There, it's better. Sorry about that. That's crazy. I need a professional team, right? Where's my team? So you're not supposed to look for shortcuts. Your foundation has to be truthful. Your foundation has to be one with wanting to devote yourself to God. Wanting to make every moment a challenge dedicated to God. Okay? Ze hismachais al leidavar. Someone who, when we say that he seeks for salvation with vanity, like the pleasure dome is one example perhaps, that is depending on something that's not real. It's a leidavar. Leiritzini, it's not worthwhile. I think that's how you translate Ritzini. Avoda has to be, perhaps by definition, asking for it to be burdened upon man. Kalemar shinui amiti. What does that mean? Okay, because that's a difficult word, so we need a Rebbe to interpret that. What does it mean that you don't ask for burden on people? The Rebbe does, because the Rebbe is sensitive enough to truly care about every Jew. Can you say that? And therefore put a burden on someone? The Rebbe can. The Frierdiker Rebbe did. Okay, this is in the Frierdiker Rebbe's name, saying it in the name of the Tzaddik Tzedek. He could say that because he sent his chassidim off to literal self-sacrifice because he cares enough to be able to do such a thing. So he's the one that could put a burden on people, and he did. A real leader has to be able to do that. He has pawns in his, the pawns are the martyrs. Okay, you want to use a chess analogy? Think about that. That's the martyrs, that's Rabbi Kiva, that's Rabbi Shmuel. That's other people who suffer and stay faithful to God. I mean, internally. They're all on the same level. But they have leaders within their own ranks. That's the Rabbi Shmuels, that's the Rabbi Kivas that take everyone with them to the highest level. Even if the boy who didn't have any kavanah when he didn't have a chance to say Shema before he was killed by Nazis, Yimach Shema. So, what does it mean to burden service of God upon your shoulders of man, the shoulders of everybody? Shinui amiti ba'adam, a true transformation. Hu shinui pnimi shenaveya miteich aveda mitis. This is a true transformation that emerges, that bubbles up from true service of God. That's what it means to ask for a burden. It means that you're prepared to make a transformation. Those words are gems. Okay? Those should bring you to tears, because my tears are usually, well, whatever. The night rather, in response to his, okay, this is a different thing now, I'm sorry. This is our Rebbe speaking about this Yom Yom. And this was the context of the Yom Yom. Okay, now I told you both. Now the Rebbe is answering someone in a letter where someone's asking about this aphorism of the Tzemach Tzedek. Okay, he quotes it, which I just said. Now he's going to go on to answer. What you got to focus on here is that we're asking for a bracha for service. As explained in many places in Chassidus, 15th chapter of Tanya. What's someone called that serves God? A servant of God, someone who serves. A verb that's ongoing. What's not said of a tzaddik? Or someone who has the custom to serve God. It's now part of their, ingrained in their nature. They just get up every morning at 5 in the morning to say Tehillim or whatever they do. Or a tzaddik who is now an accomplished person. He's not an Avid, he's an Eved, he's a slave of God. He's already transformed himself. That's the point. Now we're saying that, I think, here. So someone who serves God is rather someone who fights, he wages war with his nature and his inclination when it is contrary to God's will. The Ragam Ken Beter Aaron, he tells you, look at him, Eris Avudim. Okay, in Terah of the Alter Rebbe, right, the first Alter Rebbe, in Parshas Mishpatim, it explains the concept of service of God, which is analogous, and this is where my part where I don't know the answer yet. It's eluding me, and I'm going to hopefully channel wisdom from God to maybe illuminate this very hard idea. And I have some sources if I could find them on my iPad on the fly, which I haven't prepared. So it says here that Aveda comes from the term tanning hides. Iris avudim, tanned hides. Good morning. And then the Rebbe says, and this is what I quoted from the beginning of this video, and we could say in a humorous tone, veharemez, and as an allusion, with an A, allusion, a hint, she'aved iris, someone who's a hide tanner, a tanner, right? Someone who works with leather, who betzayas klavim. He doesn't say he has to work with. He said he is in dog, S-H-I-T. That's what it says here. What in the world does that mean? Should we finish it's a little bit more? A little bit more, and then we'll come back to it, because I want to understand that. I have some sources, and it's still a little bit early, and we still have 3 people. Okay, that's 4 of us in total. That's pretty good. Maybe 5 now. We're going to look into what that means. Do you know what that means? Does anyone want to type in what that means? Oh my goodness, it's crazy. It's wild. That's what it means to serve God. To be immersed in dog. La la la. To be the pig in the pig pen. That's what it means to tan hides, to make leather, or to serve God. What does that mean? Move on. From this it's understood. So maybe we'll get some illumination right here. Someone that someone who still needs to push themselves and get going to emerge from the mire and the filth of the world. Is asking for blessing from God. He's going to a tzaddik to get God's blessing in this. When we talk about a blessing, it means to draw down from above to below. That's what a tzaddik is channeling the godliness to the person because he cares about the person. That's the ability that makes us all one. So therefore he's drawing to himself. He's the one that's meritorious, right? The other person would have experienced this, had they merited it. The tzaddik is a channel. It's compassion in the world. God made that so the world wouldn't just be severity. There'll be miracles and tzaddikim in the world. There has to be mercy in the world. That's the fact that God gave us righteous people. That is the bracha to the world. That makes the world not just severity. There is kindness in the world. God does embrace us. Beside the dila. That's the pleasure dome. God does make a pleasure dome in the flip side, and it's infinitely greater. Or 500 times greater, if you want to be specific. What does 500 mean? Mahalak Tavkuf Shana. Why that number? That's a good number, 500. I was talking about that before. And I could do a lot more research on that, I'm sure. I found some other sources. I got to gather them up one day. Someone's asking for a blessing that they could serve God to work on themselves, which we said before meant to actually make transformation in yourself. We gave an analogy of a tanner, which means to draw down. There's energy that you have to draw in this world. Yes, it sounds metaphysical and new age. I don't care. These are the Rebbe's words, okay? Don't mess around with the Rebbe's words. Take yourself out of the filth of denying the Rebbe's wisdom. The kiddush is maloshin mavrich. What does baruch mean? What does mavrich mean? What is it called when you take the limb of a vine and make it go into the earth again? It's called mavrich. Transplant? No, I don't know the word. Milmailan mati, you draw down the vine from above to below. Raise a hefech in an aveda. When you're asking for a blessing, it's an oxymoron if you ask for aveda. You ask a blessing for aveda, it's an oxymoron. It's a yin yang. It's what we started with here. It's the crown over. It's inside the crown surrounding, transcendent, the aura of the head. The mane, which is circular, and then like an aura, the mane of the lion. It's an awesome idea. So I'm saying here, that's what it means, the Hamshacha, this new age drawing down energy. Okay, you don't like it? I don't care. That's what's happening. The kiddush is, so that means to draw down like a vineyard, and it's an oxymoron. You have a yin yang because you're told we're talking about a blessing to overcome challenges. In other words, to be transformative amidst challenges, to want to make that transformation. That's the oxymoron. That's the yin yang. That's the paradox, this union of opposites here. That's asking for this blessing. It's the opposite of serving God. Serving God is you springing off from the earth. Al Yedei Hanashim, or Al Anashim, which is incumbent upon the person himself. The Keach Nisan, the 28th of Nisan 5751, which I've been talking about like every day. That you have to do something. You're the leader. You be the head of the lion. You be the tail of the lion, which is higher than that of the lion. Because you got to be a conduit for that. Not that you dissolve your personality. That's the opposite of what I mean. Okay. Here he summarizes. This is just the commentary here. It's talking about a transformation that's made through working on yourself. Actual avodah. Okay, don't shy away from it. Work on yourself. Don't yell at people. Be nice to people. Care about other people. Okay? And loves sharing the secrets of the Torah. Don't forget that. That's, I think, the main thing, or my main thing that I think I could offer. It's more than my $18 or my patting someone on the back. This is really caring about someone, I think, when you try and help them transform themselves. As we said yesterday, ad nauseum. And it requires toil. And if you're asking for help from above to make it so you don't have to work, if you want to plug yourself into the main line of the pleasure dome, that's asking for the exact opposite of Aveda. Okay? So you have to embrace opposites. Here again. You have to ask. Don't ask for challenges. We ask, don't give me an sign. Okay, we ask that every morning. Don't ask for challenges. Ask that your inner strength should emerge. Ask for a bracha that you should realize this Hayom Yom today. Realize the preciousness of your opportunity to do something transformative for God. That's the message here. So the Rebbe says it's funny to think about that Avodah means a tanner, someone who's, it says bitzay is clothing. I don't know, I didn't look up exactly the whole source. I couldn't find anything yet, but I did find sources on the general idea and some halachas here. Okay, here's a halacha on Mishnah Torah. It's talking about the Hilchas Re'iyah, to go to the holy temple. Hamakametz hu mishamlach lekabetz sayis klavim. Hamakametz, that's the name of this dude, okay? Hamakametz. A kamtzon, someone, a kametz. He's grasping something. He's picking things up. That's someone whose job is to gather dog, S-H-I-T, v'kiyetz behen, and the like, la'abed ha'eris, to be a tanner, or to give it for purpose of tanning hides, to make leather usable. Ay, l'refuah, or for medicines. Is that how you get your medicine? Are you very holistic? Whatever it's called. Naturopathic. V'kenem etzaref necheshes, or someone who's a brass smelter, a copper smelter. Machzav shaloi v'abdonim. I didn't know what those words mean. It's some tool. Oh, I could probably get the English if I just click. Yeah, there's the English. That's not giving me English for that particular one. Okay. I don't know if people do. Okay. So such a person, okay, Afapi shehemu asin mipnei malachtam, even though they are unsavory, let's just say, stinky, because of their trade, their work, or their labor that they have to do. Hare elu metaran gufam, they purify their body, which I think means just to bathe here, or go to the mikvah. Maybe it's a spiritual purification. I don't know, but it says their bodies, it doesn't say their souls. Mabushan va'elim, and they should get dressed, I guess, in fresh clothes. Va'elim v'chal Yisrael lerois, and they should be part of the general Jewish body that's going to Yerushalayim, to the Har Bayis, to the Temple Mount, to participate in the celebration of God's holy days. He's allowed to join. He's part of the Jewish congregation. Okay, there's one halacha. It comes in time and again. Okay, it's in Guide for the Perplexed of Rambam. Okay, that's the only one that is sort of prepared. Oh, you're talking about pigs. Oh my goodness. Okay, we've got to read this. It's a Gemara Brachas. It says, there's a teaching in according to the opinion of Rav Chisda, Leikra Adam Kriyas Shema. A person should not say Kriyas Shema. Okay, we were talking about Kriyas Shema before, so this is beautiful to fit this in here. Oh my goodness, beautiful. Leikra Adam Kriyas Shema, Leikeneged Sayas Adam. He should not say Kriyas Shema before, he's in a physical place. He happens to be a physical person. It might be a position that he's in, that he's in a trade that requires him to be in nasty places where there's sayas Adam, human waste, v'lay keneged sayas klavim, or even dog waste, v'lay keneged sayas chazirin, or pig excrement, v'lay keneged sayas tarnagolim, or chicken, whatever, v'lay keneged sayas ashpa, or even an ashpa, reichara, a stinky garbage dump. But if there is a ledge he's standing on, that's 10 tvachim, which takes him to a new platitude. 10 handbreadths high, waist level, he stands on that. Or distinguished by being depressed into the earth, 10 handbreadths. Yeshev, it says, he shall sit. I think it goes on, but I don't know if I had it. 1 second. Here, I clicked it. Okay. He sits at its side. Betzido its side. Bekera Kriya Shema, and reads Kriya Shema. He says the holy words of Shema. And if not, he has to distance himself, says the Rambam. No, said the Gemara. The distance of eye shot. And also for davening, if there's an unsavory scent around him. Sheshli ikam marchi, that actually has a source for the scent, it's not going to go away. Marchi garbahamis, he has to distance himself 4 cubits. This much times 4, elbow to the tip of his finger, 1.5 feet times 4, 6 feet. Makim sherech, I think. Away from where the smell stops, and then he can say Shema. Okay, we spoke about Shema before. You could tie that in. Now I'm going to have a sip of water. So what's the Rebbe's humor here? It even brings a pig pen. You can't say Shema in a pig pen. Avodah is, founded on the Shema, this Mesiras Nefesh, asking for the burden to go upon you. That's the stench. If a person doesn't have that, it's a world of stench. And a person has to use it as a springboard, even that filth that he's mired in. Maybe specifically that. Maybe that's the humor. If they're going to figure out a way to make of that fuel, and they probably do, okay? I don't know. Does your car run on corn? Mine runs on nuclear energy, probably. Through electricity, where's it called? Peterborough? The nuclear power plant nearby? Or coal, maybe. I don't know. But selective places where we keep the pollution. We put a barrier. That's what reusable wastes allow us to put a barrier around something. It allows us to make a pig pen. The pen around it. That's a nice haiku. The pen around, the fence. Is it a fence of roses? Is that enough to make it the scent corrected? Are we distant already that we could, at a distance when we take ourselves away, then we could rely on the fence made of roses, the aroma itself, and we respect even the closeness towards something that it's not founded on proper devotion to God. The respect for that is the distance, the respectful distance, and God will take us up. He will give us the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Raya Yisrael, the shepherd, the Jewish people will take us, and connect us to God hand to hand. So each of us will come out of the Tzayas Klovim, of the pig pen of our world. Come out of that. Use that as a springboard. Maybe that's the Rebbe's humor there. Because the whole idea of Avodah, maybe we have to darshan what it means to make hides. The leather, I was talking about tefillin before, okay? The transformation there. Good morning. The transformation that's represented by tefillin, because we make them out of leather. They're leather boxes. Leather is the idea of transformation, emerging from the pig pen of the world. That's what it means. That becomes, Havdalah becomes the tefillin, the same idea, tanning hides. Or do we know, is it a different process completely? Someone should help me about that. Maybe a sefer. I have a friend, Yehuda Menashe, he could tell me how to make tefillin, he'll know. Or Rabbi Aronoff, he's a sefer. Or Michal Sofer, is he a sefer? He probably knows anyways. So anyone want to share any ideas with me? Come on, give me a minute of just relaxing. Did we finish the topic? What was the title of the topic? The Pleasure Dome, okay. I think it speaks for itself. That's the mane of the lion, is the Pleasure Dome. It's the aura around the tzaddik. It's your Yitrsem Barashem. Their crowns in their heads. That's the pleasure, the ecstasy in God. That's the first-hand experience of intimacy with God that is at our fingertips. I'm telling you, how do I know? I know firsthand, okay? Come spend some time with me. Okay? Yeah. Am I trying to show off? Why did the Baal Shem Tov come back? He perfected his soul in a previous incarnation. Why did Rabbi Shmuel have to be a reincarnation of Yosef? Wasn't Yosef the biggest tzaddik? Tzaddik is Seid Olam. Why did the Baal Shem Tov have to come back? I bet you they're related. The Baal Shem Tov had to come back because his whole life was intimacy with God that nobody should know. That was his whole existence in his previous incarnation as a child, and lived his life. And his mind opened up. He was a simple person, but his mind opened up. They taught him the secrets of the Torah. But they, after he left the world, they said this person, all he was about was not sharing with other people what he did. We're going to force him to do that because there's ultimately going to be pleasure and schus in that. He didn't want to do it, so God's the one that breaches the barriers. The Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that's given the mission. He's the one that sees that the world is lacking lions today. And says, B'makam she'ein ish, there's no lion, no ish. okay, I have to do it. I don't care. So I'll look. I don't care what people think. I don't care. Kushan Tachas. That's the yin yang of Kushan Tachas. And that's the 2 o'clock in the morning with Rabbi Lipsker. So sagen gesund und stark. Ad meve estrin. So we had to come back to the world in order to realize our calling, because the time is now right, probably. They didn't force them before. But now that the time is right, they sent them back into the world. And that's, the Arizal said it's a mitzvah, legalize zeisa chochma. It was a mitzvah to reveal this wisdom which had been concealed to one person in a generation. They would risk it dying completely, but they relied on the miracle of God to keep the persecuted nation of the Jewish people, and especially the sages. Information to one person in a generation. That's the Rebbe in our generation. Okay? But here, in this context, it's the Baal Shem Tov who furthered that message, the Arizal, furthered that message. Now it's come down to the ultimate. How do I know? Because the Rebbe gave us free reign to use our integrity, to understand his vision, to come up with our own vision. That is the Rebbe's given, it's a God-given green light. And not only green light, it's an incumbency, it's a burden that we have to accept upon ourselves to be that person or that leader within our own sphere, even if it's just yourself. But the Baal Shem Tov was sent back so he wouldn't be just for himself. Remember that. The Rebbe went further. You could go each generation and said how they took it one step further. The Rebbe beyond Braille was the Rebbe's symbol of that. Or in the airwaves, in the internet, this was the Rebbe's symbol for that. The radio waves being full with Torah. Maleh Aretz Deis Hashem K'mayim Liyam L'Chosim. The very waters itself, not just the way it's covered over. Maleh Aretz, the earth itself rather, full with godliness. In what way? Okay, there's a lower level, like water covers over, but the earth itself is filled with it. The air itself, which is part of the earth, the universe. The radio waves of terror being sent. That's what the Rebbe said. It's an awesome statement. That's the Tzayis Klavim, perhaps. But also, now let's see if that applies to Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, because he was in some ways, this completion of Rabbi Akiva, I think, was Rabbi Shmuel. The beauty of Yosef had to be Megalgal. Why? Why did beauty have to be Megalgal? Coming back in Rabbi Shmuel to suffer and correct what Yosef did. But look what I said about Yosef's possible error. I gave 2 approaches what it could be. Is it because he went to tempt himself? Or is it because temptation itself evokes something that is called sin? For him it wasn't sin, but it allows the aspect of sin, which is to make some things megushim. He lost the purity of having 12 tribes. He only had 2 tribes. He lost the purity of having 10 extra tribes in this world, his fingertips. That's where it came out of. So maybe sin just means chesaron. He didn't do anything wrong at all. It just meant he was a chesaron. And was he rewarded for that? He became a Raya Yisrael, shepherd of the Jewish people. And the Brodach Gemara says that. That was his reward. And so in that sense, it wasn't really a sin. It was a lacking. He had to sacrifice something to be. For him, that was immersion in a world of having to overcome a very seemingly coarse trial, the emerging from the pig pen of the world, seemingly like that. But it was L'Shem Shemayim, and he knew that. That's why he didn't send his angel to beat her up like he did to Potiphar's wife, Potiphar himself, So why did Yosef have to be Megalgal, says the Arizal? Why did he have to come back as Rabbi Shmuel? His beauty itself was sacrificed there. His face cut off, but then it's associated with tefillin to show that it's not about my face. True leadership is when you think about the other, when you realize that your tefillin, what's the embodiment of your tefillin? You devote yourself to God and embody, on the flip side of it, godliness in the world. And when God's name is at stake in the place for your tefillin, you will not be able to put in tefillin anymore. That's when you cry out and shake the entire world. That's the dark phoenix of Yosef in Rabbi Shmuel. And that becomes the moment of ultimate pleasure, the true pleasure dome. Okay, I think that's clear now, and now I think I've went full circle. So thank you so much for joining me and helping me through that, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. I really mean it. I would not have been able to do that without someone here just holding my hand through this, Ke'ilu. Like being there with me to say, okay, my time, my thoughts are worthwhile. And even though I should be davening now, it's a sacrifice to that, my time, that I could do something that I think is my whole purpose in this world. And I think it's your purpose too. To take the prime of your day, share it with another person, or at least use it to purify, refine yourself, so that when you go into the world, you have more light to shed. Okay, I really hope these words reach you, and you have a wonderful Shabbos. And I shouldn't have brought you down with all these bitter ideas for 3 weeks, but use them as a source to be thankful and show gratitude, God, for what you have. You know, there's only one Rabbi Shmuel. Now, beauty is time for beauty in the world. It's time for your inner beauty to shine, in your health to shine through. Look at yesterday's talk about health, okay? That's the gravy, a beautiful source. But here it's talking about coming out of the pig pen of life. That's the springboard of achieving that ultimate moment where the suffering is met with the consolation itself. It happens at the same time. That's the merging that the Rebbe speaks about and alludes to so many times, about Galus with Geula. They become one. Okay, that's when the moment of suffering is the moment of consolation. You realize that because of the intimacy you have with God is manifest and revealed in you. Do it at least one time of the day, and remember that. You can just bask in that the rest of the day. Have a great Shabbos.